All right. Welcome, everybody, after, a game that the final score is not at all surprising. The total number of points is not at all surprising. Mizzou went into a harsh environment, played a harsh defense, and could not get the job done. I don't think it was going to matter who was at quarterback. I think this was kind of slated to happen anyway. Mizzou gave its best shot, though, had the defense to hang in this game. That's what's disappointing about it, is that you have so many opportunities to create openings for yourself, but Mizzou did not run through. Could have gotten some major momentum plays to pull off an upset like this, but unfortunately, they come up short in Oklahoma, 17-6. It's the knee-jerk reactions. Andy Humphrey here from The Big Show. Thanks for joining us. A little bit maybe later than usual. I just got done with network wrap-up show. Hope you join us for that if you're listening on your local Tiger Radio network station. But now with this pregame or this postgame show, I should say, we get down to the nitty-gritty of the takeaways that really housed Mizzou and kept them in the shell that they could not ultimately break out of to win a game like this. And look, the talk is going to continue. We'll get to that here in a bit, but the big game talk will continue because Mizzou went up against another top 10 opponent, and they've faced 4 this year, but have not been able to break through against any of them. And you could say that they weren't as close as maybe the other ones. I think you should still be more upset by maybe how some of those went than this one in particular. But the fact that you didn't get this one is just another indication of you needed that margin for error earlier in the season to allow yourself for a chance to create a special record that the committee actually looks at and says, hey, maybe you're a playoff team. But ultimately, Mizzou is very far from that with now its 4th loss. And now the 10-win season is off the table too. So that's also a bit of a disappointment. You're unable to get 3 straight, but it's not like it's not doom and gloom, of course, because this is still the most that Mizzou has won in a 3-year period in quite some time, if not ever. So you put it all in perspective, obviously, but you see the ways that Mizzou fell short today, and you obviously wanted to see some different outcomes. But if you want to join us here, you can do so by leaving a comment here on YouTube and on Facebook. We'll throw it up here if you leave us comments. And so let us know your thoughts on this game as Mizzou falls 17-6. We'll show them right here if you give them to us, as I'll give you my 5 takeaways as we roll through the knee-jerk reactions. Not going to say that they lost the game on this, but it very clearly shifted the momentum. And that's ultimately why it ended up being a bad decision. But you could say in the moment, yeah, it was a bad decision too. It was one key choice that Eli Drinkwitz made with about 7 minutes to go in the second quarter. Mizzou's up by 3. Their offense has not been awesome, but they've been moving the football. They've been methodically going down the field. They've been dominating time of possession. Oklahoma's offense hadn't even gotten a first down by that point, I don't think. And Mizzou was in a position where they got to 4th and 3. I believe they had a positive play after that. I think it was a catch that they made. I believe it was Kevin Coleman who made the catch. He tried to angle to the sideline to get the first down. It was some folks saying that he could have maybe cut the other way and actually gotten it. I don't know. It was going to be a tough catch and run either way, even though it looked like a very good developing play. But they don't get the first down, and it's 4th and 3, and they're inside the OU 20-yard line. So if you're kicking it, it's about a 35-yard kick. And they elect to kick it. Now, again, all the context is key here. Mizzou's kicking game has not been great. And even though they made a field goal earlier in the game, it was one that Robbie Meyer, I think, was lucky to hit because he caught a whole lot of turf on the ground before he actually contacted the ball, and it came out as a bit of a wobbler. I thought it was tipped right as it was kicked. The first field goal we're talking about, not the second one, which was obviously blocked, but the first one I thought was contacted a bit, but still found its way through the uprights. But you had to elude a rush there that OU had clearly found a lane where they could get to the holder as quickly as possible. And sure enough, they did on the second one. And I believe Greg McElroy pointed it out on the broadcast right afterwards. Hey, you gotta close up that side some more, or shift your snap to the point where the holder's not so close to that edge, because they're starting to exploit that. But either way, the decision, it's a field goal try when you're up 3. It's early in the game. You have a manageable fourth down that you can convert, but you go for the field goal. Look, at that point, here's the thing. If Blake Craig were your kicker, I might be fine with kicking the field goal there and taking the points. But Blake Craig's not your kicker right now. He's hurt, and you've had to change out kickers left and right all season long, it seems. And it's been an adventure. And it sort of is what it is. It's not like it's going to change from the 10th game to the 11th game. You know what you've got as your kicking situation. So when Eli Drinkwitz made that choice, he was deciding to he was saying that the game was going to be a rock fight. And sure enough, it was. But you had all of the momentum on your side. You had a positive play to get yourself to a more manageable fourth down conversion, and you decided not to ride that at least as much as you could. Now, obviously, if OU gets the stop, the momentum shifts anyway, but you at least got to give yourself that chance with, time still left, several chances to possess the ball again, you'd have to think, at that point in the second quarter, in order to give yourself a shot to go on the road and potentially build a 2-score lead. But instead, you decide to go with the unit that very clearly is the worst on this team. The special teams is the absolute worst unit out of all 3 of the phases. It's one of the worst in the country. And it's shown that through 10 games. It's not a secret. It's not like it's going to get much better. Yes, they have good plays here and there. Connor Wesselman had a punt that was down inside the 2. Great. But there were other spots where it was not up to snuff. And we'll get more into it because it affected the game at other points too. But in that situation, I think you've got to let Bo Pribula have the ball in his hands to make the decision, put him in some space, see what play call you like the best on 4th and 3. And if you don't get it, well, then you were going to lose some momentum anyway because you were kicking the field goal. And obviously the momentum was amplified by the fact that you had the field goal blocked. And then OU scores on the very next drive with the slant pattern over the middle, and Satania zooms to the end zone. And then it wasn't over then, but it kind of felt that way. And that's a hard thing to say when you're only down 7-3, but that's how good Oklahoma's defense is. And so when you have opportunities in short yardage situations to say, hey, let's pick our spot and get this extra bit so that we can keep our drive alive. And you know what? If we stall out inside the 10 and we get thrown backwards on a fourth down that's less manageable, okay, then we'll kick at that point and we feel better because we're closer to the goalpost. It all changed on that one decision. And I think that was by far the worst of the game. There were others that folks had problems with. They obviously went for a field goal on the 4th and goal from the 3 with about 20 seconds left when they called timeout. I thought that was the more inexplicable decision. Why are you calling timeout with 20 seconds left when you know you can run it down? OU doesn't have the timeouts. You can run it down to 2 seconds, and it doesn't even matter if you're kicking the field goal or you're going for it. Like, make that the last play of the half. Why are you immediately calling the timeout and even allowing a kickoff to happen? But instead, they kicked the field goal there, which in that situation, I'm fine with. That was a 2-minute drill. You're trying to get points at the end of the half. And you don't want to let all of that hard work that you did to get into that position go to waste. Otherwise, momentum's definitely on the side of Oklahoma if you come up with an empty trip and you head into the locker room down 11. So I wasn't I didn't have an issue with that field goal decision. There was another 4th down where they got to midfield. I think Josh Manning had about a 7 or 8 yard catch to put him right at the 50, it appeared, and they could have gone for it there, which I also would have understood going for it. I didn't quite understand punting there, especially because, again, Mizzou's punting situation isn't all that great either. So what good is flipping the field going to do when you don't really have all that guarantee of flipping the field? So if I had to rank them, the ones that I disliked the most, it was the one on 4th and 3, midway through the second when the field goal was blocked. The second one was, I believe, Mizzou's first drive of the second half where they get stopped at midfield. It's 4th down and about 2 or 3, and they decide to punt there. The decision to kick the field goal at the end of the half, I don't have much of a problem with. But that one decision on the blocked field goal turned the game because Mizzou had been outgaining OU. I mean, after the first quarter, it was 78 to -7, and they continued to build up that discrepancy when they drove down and got into that spot. OU had another 3 and out, I believe, at that point. And Mizzou just decided to not possess the ball any longer, try to get points, and it backfired on them. So that was the one decision that absolutely changed the game. And you can go back and ask Eli Drinkwitz about that one over and over again. The other ones, yeah, sure. The midfield one was the one that I hated the most out of the others. Field goal at the end of the game, I'm fine with. I know there's a lot of other things that Mizzou fans are upset about with this coaching staff, but we might not have enough time to get through all of them. Instead, let's go to number 2 here. Mizzou's defense kept them in this game. They played excellent. I know OU's not a great offense. I know John Mateer's not the best quarterback in the SEC. I know they don't really have much of a run game. They have a couple of receivers that burned. Certainly one receiver burned them today on one play. I know they're not the best unit in the world. They're banged up on the offensive line, but Mizzou can't apologize for that. I thought they played very well. And the only times that OU scored in this game was on that 87-yard play to Satania, and look, that'll happen from time to time. Just kind of miscommunication on the back end with the tackling assignments, and you let that up. The other touchdown, like Mizzou had given them a short field. They started on the Mizzou 35, and they end up going 7 plays for 35 yards to go up 14-3 with just over 2 minutes to go. And at that point, you do feel like the game's over. But that wasn't on the defense. Because the defense, every time that OU started in their own territory just about, Mizzou's defense held up very well. Forced 4 3-and-outs in the game. 2 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. Josiah Trotter was everywhere. He had 13 tackles. They allowed only 3.2 yards per carry. Even when you take the sacks out, it's under 4 yards a carry, and that's still very good from a defensive standpoint. It helped Mizzou win the time of possession battle. The fact that OU wasn't on the field for as much. Mateer held to under 50% completion percentage, 173 yards, under 300 yards for the game. Like, this is an excellent Mizzou defensive unit that deserves a little more for what their results have been this year. Because, yeah, there are times where they've broken down at the end of the game. It happened against Texas A&M. And I think the worry was going on the road in this game was that maybe you see a repeat of that. Well, we did not see it at all. And I mean, the fact that they allowed basically nothing in the second half except for the opening drive of the second half to OU when they get just the field goal. I mean, Mizzou allows nothing after that point. Every single drive for OU, other than the kneel down at the end, was a punt. They had 6 consecutive punts after that field goal with about 11:36 to go in the third quarter. And if I do quick math here, they ran 30 plays at that point and were held under 100 yards on those plays. It was an excellent performance. that Mizzou's defense deserved to have a win in. They played well enough to win this game. Mizzou's offense, unfortunately, didn't quite get there. Like, you could have gotten the 20 and won it. But Mizzou's offense just didn't have the spark that they needed, which we'll get to. But, look, I know we had moments earlier in the season where we were nitpicking, like, why are they giving up all these big plays? Why is the secondary, letting up these explosive pass plays and everything like that? And Mizzou has kind of eliminated that a good amount of the second half of this season. I mean, the 87-yard passing touchdown to Satania. But other than that, Oklahoma only had 2 explosive pass plays, a 15-yarder and a 17-yarder, 3 explosive runs. Mizzou, even if you go to the big plays, they had more in this one. Now, some of them came late, and they were almost by necessity. But 7 explosive pass plays for Mizzou compared to 3 for OU in this game. It was just like this defense. Corey Batoon deserves a lot of credit. Took a lot of heat early in the season for how things looked against Mizzou's earlier opponents. They clearly were the easier opponents to go up against. But against, the top 10 teams, Mizzou's defense in every single one of those has given them a chance. Every game. I think it's pretty impressive. Like, that you can get to 20 and have a shot to win it. Mizzou just didn't get to 22, didn't get in the end zone. That's why they lost. Don't put any of it on the defense. We've said a lot. I feel like I've said that a lot this year, but it's true once again. And so we'll see what parts of that defense can stick around, because Mizzou's going to need it going forward. All right, number 3. Bo Pribula back, but could not quite provide what I think Mizzou was looking for in order to win this game, or really to get their offense back to what it was pre-injury for Pribula. Now, I know kind of towards the end it wasn't looking all that great, but we saw a few flashes of it. Like the first drive of the game, they methodically moved down the field. They eat up 8.5 minutes. It ends in a field goal because they had a holding penalty that set them back. And when you move the football like that and there aren't very many other ways to move the ball, well, then you're going to have drives that stall out and you got to settle for 3. But it was looking good early, but ultimately Pribula, and I don't know why, like, is he good enough? Was he just not healthy enough? Is he taking too much time to decide in the pocket? I don't know. Maybe a combination of all of those things are true. But regardless, whatever it must have been, couldn't provide the spark that Mizzou was envisioning when they say, hey, we might get our starting quarterback back for this game. No, nothing against Matt Zowers, but like this was the quarterback that they needed to have in the game, I think, in order to have a chance to win. But he didn't give them enough of a margin, I think, to actually have all of that pay off. And I mean, look, we'll see if he looks better in the next game against Arkansas, whether this was just the first game back after getting a little rusty, having to focus on the rehab, not being able to correctly identify what might be in front of him on the field to correctly make the read that he needs to, maybe just from being out of that element for 4 weeks was enough to create the type of big plays that Oklahoma was able to have when they sacked Pribula 4 times. So, look, it wasn't anything spectacular, obviously. Mizzou didn't get in the end zone. That's the ultimate goal. And that's what you got to do in order to win games. But I thought Pribula's game was approaching average, but I don't think it quite got there. And when you look at the final stat line, it's a little misleading. 20 of 36, 231 yards, but a lot of that came when Mizzou was forced to throw and had to get things going in the fourth quarter. 122 of those passing yards came in the second half, and 115 of them came in the fourth quarter. So 116 through three quarters, 115 in the fourth quarter alone, when Pribula was finding Kevin Coleman and trying to put themselves in position to score. And look, I'm not trying to say that he's washed or anything like that. He just had a game where I think you can expect some type of rust when you come out of injury like that. And again, OU's defense is very darn good. A little bit light against the pass compared to the run, which they're excellent against. But when you take away the run, well, then you know that they're going to pass. And Mizzou didn't particularly pass well as a result. So, look, it was going to be tough sledding no matter who the quarterback was. But if Pribula was deemed to be healthy enough, which he was in this game, then I think everyone did owe it to themselves to say, okay, put him out there. That's the guy that everyone at the start of the season got excited to play for. He's been working all week long to get back into the fold for his team and back a lot sooner than you normally would after an injury like that he suffered. He's probably dealing with some sort of pain through all of that. Group can rally around that, potentially play for an upset victory in Norman. Just didn't work out that way. And look, the run game wasn't necessarily helping out either. Ahmad Hardy broke free for one run. He had a 20-yarder, but you take that away, he's 16 carries for 37 yards, and that's just not going to get the job done. Mizzou could have, I think, kept afloat in this game by churning out 3 or 4 every so often, consistently getting to that point with both Hardy and Roberts. And Roberts in this game just wasn't there. 10 carries, 14 yards. Just it was a non-factor. But Mizzou never found the healthy balance for what they needed out of their offense. And look, give them credit. They tried to run the ball. They gave it to Hardy and Roberts a combined 27 times, but just didn't work out. And credit to OU's defense, because that's how good they are. Even without R.A. and Thomas today, they still have a bunch of dudes that know how to stop the run. And when you can stop the run like that, pass game suffers, because the pass rush can pin their ears back and tee off on third downs. Mizzou was in a bunch of unlucky third downs, not unlucky, but unsuitable third down situations. 3 of 15 on third down in this game. And that, you can't do that when you want to go on the road and win. So they'll look at it. Pribula, I'm sure, will get a week stronger and have a much better chance against a much worse defense in Arkansas to finish the regular season with a victory. But the spark just wasn't there. And it wasn't just him. Nobody on the offense was able to provide the spark consistently that Mizzou needed for this game. Special teams. It's horrible right now. Again, one good moment. Connor Wesselman's punt inside the 2. Cool. And OU was pinned back, and they eventually punted the football after that. But everywhere else, Mizzou didn't give themselves a chance because their special teams, top to bottom, it's been awful this year. I believe coming in 118th in the country, according to SP+. It's just, can't have 2 30-yard punts in this game and expect to win. The one that Wesselman had, and I know it's hard to punt from your own end zone. I've never done it before. Sure, it's hard. But you can't punt just 31 yards from your end zone. That gives them an extra short field, and they knew exactly what to do with it. Of course, the kicking is what it is. It would be different if Blake Craig was out there. He's not. I think 10 games in, they would have an established kicker, though. They would have someone that they like to consistently, no matter where you are on the field, make the kicks. But it seems they don't. And it is what it is. Both of them are walk-ons. It's not like you expected somebody to be excellent, but all season long, this is what Mizzou has dealt with. And it's again, why I harken back to, if you knew that this was what your special teams was, then why are you not going forward on 4th and 3 inside the OU 20-yard line? Thought it was a fascinating decision going in. If it were different circumstances and you had a good kicker that you trusted, then maybe you kick it because you know it's going to be a rock fight of a game and you gobble up as many points as you can. But here it's different because it's not just the fact that Robbie Meyer and Oliver Robbins are inexperienced and are walk-ons and we're not expected to be in this situation. It's everywhere. It's blocking on the field goal attempts. It's blocking on the punt coverage. It's the punt contact in general. It's everything. Look, it hasn't, I mean, you can say that it costs them a game. I wouldn't go that far, but it definitely makes it harder. Like you're fighting an uphill battle every time that you're dealing with some sort of special teams play if you're Mizzou. And so continues to be an issue. I don't expect it to be fixed by the end of the season, but we'll see how it gets addressed because it has to be addressed at some point. So once again, it reared its ugly head today. All right. The big game talk. This was another big game. Not one that Mizzou was favored to win, but one that Mizzou could bill it as, hey, this is a rivalry. This is a place where we haven't won in a very long time, but that's the past history. That was the talk all this week. We can create our own history by going down there and shocking this team. Even though we're not in the playoff, what do we have to lose? They do have something to lose. Let's go spoil their season. And again, they just can't get the offense to make it happen. And so the big game talk is going to continue for Eli Drinkwitz. And it's because not only the fact that the offense was not nearly up to snuff and didn't get in the end zone and couldn't move the ball consistently enough to give yourself a chance in this game, but it's right or wrong, the decisions will pop up for Eli Drinkwitz. He'll be billed once again, right or wrong, for being a little too conservative in these spots, for playing to not lose instead of playing to win. The decision after the block, before the blocked field goal, I think is the most egregious. That's the one that you point back to and you can clearly correlate production within the game from both sides and how they went opposite directions based off of that play. But it all came back to Eli Drinkwitz's decision. And if he has a different one, maybe Mizzou is still continuing that drive. And maybe it doesn't result in a touchdown anyway, but you still kick the field goal if you're maybe in a 4th and longer situation or you get sacked on 3rd down and you're just like, okay, momentum's gone. Let's take our points. Either way, you're chewing up more clock and you're dictating the terms. Like you are deciding when OU can have the football back, if you can get into a goal-to-go situation. So just that decision then dovetailed into some other decisions that, look, I think could have gone either way, but because Mizzou fans didn't like the decision that I thought wasn't the right decision after the blocked field goal, then all the other little stuff just kind of spirals and fans start to talk even louder and louder and say, what's this guy doing? Eli Drinkwitz is an excellent coach. He has built this culture in a way that I did not expect could happen in such a short period of time. He has consistently put Mizzou over these last 3 seasons in position to have a game where like you grab the national attention, you could make the playoffs potentially with a win like that and continue to elevate the level of this program. Those games have eluded him, but it's not to say that he's a bad coach or that he doesn't know how to build a program. Like, clearly he knows how. Clearly he knows how to elevate a program. Where was Mizzou before this? They were way down there. Now they're actually in position where these big games matter, that we talk more about these big games. You wouldn't necessarily be complaining about a coach if he wasn't winning these games against top 10 opponents. If Mizzou was consistently unranked every year and was fighting for bowl eligibility, you'd be like, okay, well, you're expected to lose that one. Well, now Mizzou is in a spot where they're expected to be more competitive in these games, and it is because of what Eli Drinkwitz has done. So I think the talk around like, oh, I'd be glad if he leaves or something like that, I just think that's bogus. Like, you want Eli Drinkwitz to be your coach. He can still keep Mizzou at this level, and that is an excellent level to be at. And look, Mizzou will have more chances like this, and maybe they actually get one. But the talk will still continue. Like, that part I do recognize. Like, that having that signature win that you hang your hat on, you're like, oh, okay, so they can actually upset a team that had a lot to lose and knock them out of playoff contention. They have that ability all of a sudden to disrupt college football's higher tier and break into it themselves. They haven't gotten that game yet. But let's not forget the perspective of where they were pre-Drinkwitz. Now, they're in a spot where the games matter more. And so the fact that we're talking about it, the fact that you're probably looking at that record right now and thinking, man, that's a bit of a disappointment. 8-4 would be, it's a good year this year, and it's for sure going to be a good year next year when the SEC goes to 9 games. That means you're a winning record in the SEC. Mizzou can't get a winning record in the SEC this year like they have each of the last couple of seasons, but they can still make sure that it's not a losing one, and all they have to do is go to Arkansas, a team that hasn't won in conference play yet, and beat them like you have 8 out of the last 9 seasons. Now, again, I'm talking like it's a given. It's not. You still got to go and win the game. It's on the road. It'll be difficult. Arkansas can definitely score. And the question definitely is, can Mizzou score? Didn't score a touchdown today. I've said that a lot today. Sorry about that. But I think that there might be a lot of talk around whether Eli Drinkwitz should be the guy going for. No, he should be the guy. If he wants to stay at Mizzou, Mizzou fans should be happy that he wants to, because he is a darn good coach. I understand the questions about in-game decision-making. Can it get better? Will it get better going forward? I don't know. Maybe that's what's holding him back from winning these big games, but I think it's more so because they've been right there, but these games come down to 2 to 3 plays, one way or the other, and that's what tips the scales. Now, that wasn't the case today, but it was the case against Alabama. It was the case against Vanderbilt. Mizzou wins either of those, we're talking a lot differently today still. Mizzou's probably still in position to be in the playoff if they can win those types of games earlier in the year. So that's why this talk will continue, but let's not get carried away and say that, oh, Eli Drinkwitz shouldn't be even up for these jobs that he might be up for within a week's time, or maybe after next weekend. We shall see what the timing actually is going to be. But until he wins a big game like this, he will have to continue to answer those questions. Thanks for joining us today on the Knee Jerk Reactions. Again, give a comment here and we'll take a look at it, and you can let us know what you thought about this game as Mizzou falls to Oklahoma 17-6. We'll have one more Knee Jerk Reactions after the Arkansas game. We'll see if we have one for the bowl game or not. Haven't decided yet. But after this one, we'll see how Mizzou is able to recover and get ready for Arkansas, which is one they definitely don't want to lose. So we'll see how the Tigers are able to respond after this loss today. Thanks for joining us. Again, be sure to get more reaction from us on the big show at 4 o'clock on Monday with Brendan and me. Catch that. Catch all of our other big shows throughout the week. If you're on our podcast page, you can view all of them there. Our YouTube channel also has every big show where you can watch live. And be sure to check out all of those channels. And we'll see you next time here on the Knee Jerk Reactions.